choosing the right strategy, as you can see in this picture, there's multiple different choices for you to make in every single bubble, every single stage of your investing journey. So I'm really going to just categorize based on the level of income you have. Skill set can be learned, but I'll kind of walk you through what my thought process if I could start it all over again with or without a bit of capital. Let's use this. If you have about like 10 to 20K, honest opinion is that figure out how to increase a bit of active income, because the investment is a lot of times is highly dependent on how much capital you have. The more capital you have, it really unlocks multiple different options for you to kind of get into real estate market. So let's quickly talk about the active income that you can do. So wholesaling is actually one of them. Being able to source the right deal for the investor. If you really think about the investing journey, this is actually one of the skills that I highly recommend. If you're okay with sales, or if you're okay with talking to a lot of people and dedicating your time to learning a really high leverage skill set, wholesaling is definitely by far the number one. It's not going to be easy, but at the same time, it teaches you two different things. One is the sales skill. Number two is how to source the right deal. And I'm going to get into a little bit deeper with this one, but the goal here is very simple. If you can actually find a deal for other investors, under market value deal, where other people are willing to actually pay for your time and service to take over that contract, you already master the skill set of sourcing the deal. And imagine if you have like 50, 80K, now you can really find the right deal for yourself. In a natural progression sort of a perspective, I like this to be anchored because, again, first of all, people pay for your service, people pay for your time. And also there's a very good synergy for what you can offer for your own portfolio. So I really like doing wholesaling in the very beginning. Now, if you feel like, okay, your skill set is more like making connection, you're very good with people, but you don't want to be sourcing the deal, you can kind of find ways to get into more like a referral-based service. You can try to do a bit of outreach for other investors, provide some other values that investors might need. The marketing, if you have a bit of skill set, try to utilize some of that to bring other sort of like provide a bit of value or a bit of service for other investors. And that way you make the connection, people pay for your expertise. On top of that, you're connecting with more like wealthy investors, which later on it can also be a way for you to raise a bit of capital for the deals that you find. Okay, so that's another one. PM, like property management, project management, leasing service. This is actually how also I started. It taught me a lot about daily operation. So when I first really dive into real estate full time, one of the things I do is I started offering tenant placement service for my neighbors, like the literally right next to my rental property. I met with them, I showed them exactly what I do for my properties, and I'm just be like, hey, you live in Toronto, you're far away, why don't I also help you out with this one? And then you can just compensate for my time. A very easy way to get into the industry without a lot of capital, and this will quickly allow you to kind of expand the network plus the financial resource a little bit here. If you are very good with doing things on your own, repairs, construction, this will kind of teach you about the GC, general contractor skill, so that later on you can utilize the same skill set for your own property. Again, save a lot of operational costs in the very beginning, and those are all the stuff that I highly recommend you do initially. Now, all of this, only the first two can be done remotely. The last two, you need to be in the local market. So that's really the first thing that I would do. And then once you have a bit of a connection, you can also raise a bit of capital, get into the market. You can maybe partner up with your peers. You can maybe partner up with your friends, family, colleagues, and try to raise a bit of capital. And that's also how you can kind of get into the next property. So once you have a bit of a capital to utilize, whether or not it's your own capital or your contacts, your partner's capital, what you can end up doing now, over 30K in the US market, I will focus on flip and burn. Okay, anything that's a value-added approach. And part of the reason why I'm saying that is because if you have a bit of capital, you definitely want to flip this capital up to, let's say, over 100K. Like, do a couple projects that will increase that equity of the property. So BRRRR, you can refi. So BRRRR means like buy, renovate, rent, refi, repeat. BRRRR method is a very scalable way when the market is stable or when you're in kind of like bullish market. So I definitely highly recommend the value-added approach because this will teach you a lot of things. It will force appreciate the property. And the most important thing is that once that there's a bit of equity, it's kind of like saving income. You can take that equity out, or you can sell that property and then reinvest that capital into maybe 2 other projects. And that's really also how I've been like growing my portfolio even to this state. It's just doing the value-added approach to the property. Now, if you have like 30K, and then you're like, okay, well, I kind of want to skip the really entry level, like single family or a bit of a flip. You want to kind of keep things as passive as possible, but the margin is not big enough, and you're trying to like figure out how to get into the bigger deal. They just do a bit of capital raise. Let's say if you have 30K already, 50K, you partner up with another person with 50K. Now you're at 100K capital requirement. It's nothing in Canada, I get that, but in the States, there's a lot more things you can do. You can get into more like a mid-sized multifamily space if you really want to. Now, once you have over 100K in the available capital, the things I would definitely do, if it's your very first one, I still recommend you start with 2 to 4 unit, smaller residential. Number one is that getting into a new market, there's a lot of learning curve that you still need to go through. The context, how the DSCR loan works, right? And if you kind of take this acquisition process a little bit earlier, it's all like title company, realtors, property manager, insurance agency, all those power team that you still need to kind of assemble. So I don't want you to kind of get into too big of deal without knowing who to reach out to wherever there's a problems, because the operational stuff is going to be heavy, and when you see in different markets, it's really operated differently. So don't underestimate this whole process. So get into something small, prove the concept, and then you can kind of scale up afterwards. If you do have like a lot more capital, and you definitely want to make sure the first one is going to be worth your time, maybe 6 to 12 units, mid-size assets multifamily could be right for you. If you are already kind of experiencing, you're like very comfortable with just getting into a bigger deal. Commercial real estate is another way to do it. Or you can do a bit of lending for other investors. And part of the reason why I said that is also because it's a guaranteed income. 10 to 14% could be the starting point, and then you lend it to a project where you have a full understanding. At least you get a bit of update here and there before you dive into the one project all by yourself. This is kind of like my thought flow, depending on the financial resources that you currently have. But it's not saying that this is the only way. It's just that this is a pattern that I've been seeing, and I highly recommend people to prove the concept, get into something smaller, kind to the market, and then figure out the scaling point afterwards. Don't focus on scaling when you don't have anything yet.